It'd be really funny though. It'd be funny if like in Edge of Tomorrow too, he's like an old man. He's on his deathbed, and he
He
dies.
dies and
He
then goes
wakes up
all
in
the
the
way back.
helicopter. That's
Oh,
just
I'd be so mad. I'd be so mad about that.
Troopers fall through an endless sky. Military science, science fiction contest.
Today we are moving back into movie review land, and we're going to talk about a movie I like to call Live, Die, Repeat, but was actually named Edge of Tomorrow. The book is called Live, Die, Repeat, or I think the manga.
No, the book is called All You Need Is Kill.
All You Need Is Kill. That's right.
Live, Die, Repeat was the tagline
That's
for
right.
the trailer.
You know what's
Which,
funny about that is I went to watch it this morning and I went on Prime and I did the voice thing and I was like Edge of Tomorrow and it came up with the little buy symbol and I'm like, I know that I own this movie. And so I had to scroll through all of the movies because on the Fire Stick you can't just get the thing, you've got to scroll all the way through. Scrolled all the way to the end, Live, Die, Repeat. That was the name of it in the thing.
They changed it. They changed it when it came out on home video.
it's
Yeah.
like a Berenstain Bears. I feel like, am I crazy? Because I keep thinking of it as that. Because Edge of Tomorrow actually, to criticize something military science fiction related makes me think of romance.
It sounds like a daytime soap opera.
Right, right. It is not, which is probably something in trying to appeal to a wider audience. Like, okay, hey, honey, do you want to watch?
No, he's always on the edge of tomorrow.
Well,
Yes, but it sounds like a daytime soap opera.
right. It doesn't
that,
sound like
that never occurred to me.
really. Oh, it did to me.
I
Like,
thought it was a perfect title.
I feel like the movie was
It
poorly
didn't occur to me too, but Rick has a habit of like ruining my titles. The title for the third Valor book was supposed to be Essence of Valor, and Rick was like, "It sounds like a perfume," and I'm like, "Come on, man! Like I can't do
Come
that
on,
now."
Essence is a load. I don't know.
Oh, de Valor.
I'm thinking of something like hair products. Like, okay, so we're gonna watch the trailer, which I will magically insert into the video here.
Boom.
If you're listening on the podcast, I will probably. Well, I guess we could keep. It's cool to listen to it too, but you might hear some cool sound effects.
Ah, you could link it in the
Yeah, I
notes.
can link it, so I'll cut it out of the podcast.
It's also a 10-year-old movie at this point.
I can't believe it's been 10 years.
How much fun is it to listen to a trailer, I guess is what I'm thinking.
Right.
But anyway, here's the trailer.
What I am about to tell you sounds crazy. But you have to listen to me. Your very lives depend on it. This is not the end. You see, this isn't the first time. Now, we've had this conversation. What day is it?
Judgment Day. You just came in with the fresh recruits.
This is not the end. The invasion will fail, along with every soldier you are sending. We lose everything.
Come find me when you wake up!
You do know what's happening to me.
What happened to you happened to me. You hijacked their power. I need your help.
With what exactly?
Winning the war. We can do this. Just come here every day and I'll train you.
No matter what I do, it's as far as you go.
Why does it matter what happens to me?
I'm not a soldier.
Of course you're not. You're a weapon.
Great trailer. Best trailer ever.
Huge trailer.
Everyone says it.
Huge trailer.
Everyone says
Not like the trailers from
it's the best
China.
trailer ever.
So I think maybe we could start the conversation about this. Is like this probably is a military science fiction movie that has pretty good crossover value, as far as audience wise. Like I do think it was marketed poorly. Like I actually didn't even know it was in the theaters when it came out, but it's a movie that my wife loves, and I don't know if that's because of the way they set up the characters. It is just kind of a cool like you get
Groundhog Day meets Aliens.
exactly, and
I think what happened was
Tom
is
Cruise, too.
it wasn't necessarily the marketing was bad. Is there was a really big article, I think I forget in what it was, Forbes or Time or one of them, where they're like, "Oh, how many times is someone going to remake Groundhog Day?" And I think that turned a lot of people off.
I don't remember that
I
article.
love Groundhog's Day.
Oh, Groundhog Day is one of my favorite movies ever.
But that the year this movie came out was a really good year for movies, right? We had Winter Soldier came out the same year. And this is just Edge of Tomorrow is just one of the best military sci-fi movies. It's right up there with Aliens. It's infinitely quotable. It's emotional. It's funny. It has cool technology. If you haven't seen Edge of Tomorrow, you absolutely should.
Oh yeah, definitely.
We totally picked it because it's we all love it. So
it is also one of the very few time travel movies that don't really like screw it up, right?
It's
like there's
really
a lot of time
travel, I think, and that's probably why it works so well.
Well, that's what I mean. Like it's not like they're not going back in time; they're just restarting. It's technically not time travel, but they're still playing with time.
Story, because that's one of the first things I noticed. Actually, like thinking about like every branch changes slightly, and then he changes it. I mean, that was one of the things that I started thinking like the human mind can't track all this as part of what was throwing me off on some of it, but I just let that go.
Like what? What could you not track?
Track all the steps it takes to change the outcome of a given thing until you.
Yeah, it's funny because I hear
do that
lots
video games all the time.
It's funny because I get interrupted when I talk all the time. It's funny because I hear people say all the time, not just you. I mean, lots of people that time travel movies confuse them, that they can't keep. And I'm like, I never had that problem. I always able to follow time travel.
Well, it
movies,
doesn't
no problem.
confuse me, but it's like the new outcomes. You have to remember and follow every new outcome that may or may not happen. And the thing is, every time you change one thing down the road, things change, and the movie doesn't really address that. And that's fine. Like I didn't really dwell on it, but it is a thing I think about in this kind of story.
Well, he had 2 days, right? He had 2
Yeah.
days. It wasn't really one day that was reliving over and over again. It was 2 days, and he probably could have gone longer. It was until he died.
Yeah.
But the thing is like one of the things that I really liked about the movie was watching him progress through the different actions. Like for instance, when he first hits the ground and the shuttle hits him, and then the next time he gets out of the way, but the car hits him, and the next time he gets out of the way, the car, but something else hits him. And it's when I play video games, it's kind of think about Dragon Slayer. You guys remember Dragon Slayer back in the day?
Yes,
Probably
definitely.
not, Josh, but
You talk Dragon's Lair.
Dragon Slayer, yeah.
Dragon's Lair.
Yeah.
What I said? Did I say Dragon
I
Slayer?
thought you said
Well, it
Dragon's
sounds like
Lair.
Slayer, but Dragon's Lair.
I may have said, but like Dirk the Daring, there were like 9,000 steps you had to memorize.
And I got it to the point where I could go to the very last thing before you win the game and purposely get killed twice just so I could build up more points.
And and if you make one step wrong, you have to start all the way over at the beginning, and that's kind of what Edge of Tomorrow was.
Well, actually in Dragon's Lair you went back to the beginning of the scene. But
I mean, like every time you put a quarter in, you started over at the beginning, and you got to the point where you did it so many times. The thing is I did some math on this. Rebecca and I love this movie. We watch it at least 2-3 times a year. Whenever we're bored, we're like, let's watch Edge of Tomorrow. And I'm pretty sure he was there for about 10 or 15 years. He was caught in the loop for 10 or 15 years.
I don't know if it was that long. It was at least a couple of years.
They kept it ambiguous on how many times he was going back, and they got the audience to a point where they didn't have to follow. Like for the first couple of times he jumps, you see like everything from when he wakes up, and then it starts skipping to like the most important parts of his jumps, and I really like that. And then they didn't really dumb it down. Really, they didn't.
I think they know that that's tedious, but they know
for sure
there's a tension every time he jumps because you wonder like what's going to kill him. And when they
Yeah.
started, like, I actually felt more tension when they totally leave, like, the battlefield and like, what's going to kill him? What's going to kill him? Like, what dumb thing is going to kill him?
The reason I don't think it was 10 or 15 years is because when Rita, pardon me, was talking about her friend Hendrix or whatever his name was,
Yeah.
she said she watched him die over 300 times, and that meant that to train to the point where she was now, it took her about a year.
Thing
And
is
I figured that Tom Cruise getting to the point where he was just as good as her probably took about a year too.
true, but he was an unreliable narrator.
It's true.
And which is one of the brilliant things about the film. There are, for instance, the first time you see them going in to get the caravan to get out of that place,
Yeah,
according to the narration, that's the first time they were there.
but it wasn't.
They hadn't escaped that point. I mean, like they'd gotten there, but they hadn't gotten out. And he's like, okay, she's like, the only two vehicles we haven't tried are the caravan and this other thing, right? And he's like,
SUV,
okay,
green
I'll
SUV.
go. Yeah, he's like, I'll go distraction. You get the caravan. And then he says, don't forget to unhook the caravan. You always forget.
Right.
He doesn't say you
Right.
always forget. He just says you don't need the dead weight. But he says it in a way that you think, oh, we've been here before, and she's forgotten to unhook it.
And so there's a bunch of little hints throughout it. Like, for instance, when they're in the farmhouse, and he's like, I can fly the helicopter, but I can't really land it. How many times did he have to do that? How many times did he get to the point where he knew exactly how her coffee was?
Yeah.
Just to get to the farmhouse was probably 2 or 3 years. And it's just, it goes on and on and on. All these little, and he's so unreliable in the narration because I think he forgets how often he's done it. And it's just, it's one of the really brilliant aspects of the movie.
One of the things that once it starts, like once the cycles start, I'm in it. I'm like completely in it. And I was telling Rick and James right before you jumped on, Jeff, is that the only thing that I really had a hard time with was the very beginning of the movie, because they present him as a really famous guy and he's like really good at talking to people and he inspires lots of people to come and join the military and all of that. And then number one, when he lands in a helicopter, he's a major, he gets met by some kind of junior enlisted from the British. And she shakes his hand. She doesn't salute. There's not an officer there to greet him. He's obviously there on official business. Otherwise, he wouldn't have come in the helicopter. And that kind of threw me off a little bit. But then also the whole like forcing him to go into combat with another nation's armed services when he's obviously not a combat troop, like that threw me off. Like if the war against the mimics is so critical, why are we sending this guy that has no combat experience at all to the front line? It didn't. That doesn't.
The idea
vibe
was that
with
he
me.
was going to do a documentary on it with a camera crew, and it wasn't until
Inspire more
after
people to join.
until he ran away and refused to do it that they called him a deserter and put him in there.
Yes, but the general all but like said, you're going to the front line, and if you're doing a documentary like that, like you're not going to be at the very front line. Like even embedded reporters are.
It wasn't supposed to be D-Day.
Yeah, it was supposed to be uncontested landing.
There. They were just going to land, and he was going to film the troops landing. And he's like, I'm not a combat soldier. He's like, yeah, that's why I'm embedding you with several thousand of them. There wasn't.
It was supposed to be a surprise. They weren't supposed to know they were coming.
No, I get all that. It's just like, if my whole thing is, if he's from a different service, they wouldn't be forcing him into a combat unit with another service.
I think the idea behind that is that the general was a dick.
Right. I think that was
he was a jerk. He was an idiot. It took them like 100 times to convince him they were telling the truth, and even then, he sent troops after them and tried to kill them. Even after they proved to him that they knew the future, he still would not believe. So he was kind of an idiot.
And also, Tom Cruise's character in the beginning, being the coward, his blackmail attempt was generals. We think of them, we think of famous generals like Patton or Washington or whatever, but now they're politicians, right? And so that guy's like this dude's going to ruin my career.
Plus, he's twice as bad. He's a British general.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't call it blackmail. I mean, I suppose it was blackmail. Like
Oh,
when
it was
he adds the
blackmail.
note about,
This dude
well, he
blackmail.
adds the thing
It was
about like,
persuasion.
Yeah.
How hard do you think it would be for me to convince everybody that it was your fault? You know.
yeah. I mean, if he,
I don't know. Like I said, once they get to the drop and he starts making the cycles, I'm all in. But the fact that nobody recognized him, even when
that was
like
a big one. I
he
hadn't thought
gets,
about that.
I mean, he's obviously in an officer's uniform. He's in the Browns. He's like people are gonna know who he is, and the fact that they just kind of ignore everything that he says, like everything that he says, they don't
Yeah, because
listen to him at all.
yeah, well, because they were told he was a con man and a liar and got caught impersonating an officer.
Yeah, but somebody's gonna recognize him, and that's the only thing. Somebody
I
has to
mean, he
recognize
just
him.
arrived in England, though.
No. But he was like
He was on
the
TV,
news.
is what Josh
he
was
was on
saying.
TV
Oh,
everywhere.
I got you. I got what you're saying.
He was,
Yeah.
But
and that's they set it up.
know
That's what
how
I'm saying.
often
That's
they let
true.
their troops watch TV.
Right.
No, I get it. I get it. But
No,
the
no,
way
I
they
see what you're
present
saying.
it,
No, I get what you're
Yeah.
saying. Yeah.
I mean,
time-
this is, you got to remember, this was filmed in actually before, probably like 2012, which was before social media really took off. So you didn't have everybody like watching video clips on their phone. So
it doesn't break the movie for me at all. It's just one of those things that I see, and like my writer's brain kicks in on some of these things, and try to. It just feels kind of easy button to me, especially that
Yeah,
you
nobody.
keep the writer's brain in the jar on your desk.
Yeah, I think at least one person would have recognized him and been like, "No, that's the guy from the TV I saw." Like,
Well, to quote the guy from pitch meetings, well, if we have to get the movie working, it's in the script.
right? Wow!
I'm going to need you to get all the way off my back on this.
Right.
One thing I liked about,
I wonder if there's a pitch meeting about Edge of Tomorrow.
Probably.
I'm going to Google that.
so the interaction with the sergeant who
Oh yeah, Farrell.
So that guy had a look on his
Master Sergeant.
Master
Yeah,
Sergeant.
Sergeant Farrell.
I actually meant to do this and I haven't yet. Like if that
From
guy
Science Hill, Kentucky.
he had a look on his face, like the way that he was looking at that soldier as he's BS, like he's looking at a soldier who's BSing him. He thinks there's a con man.
For sure.
He has this
Yeah.
look on his face that I have, not necessarily when I was a soldier, but I saw it, a lot as an officer. But he's just got this like half smile and he's watching the guy just like, what dumb thing are you going to say? And how much fun am I going to have with it? And that rang
We'll
very
get you squared away, sir.
exactly like that. I just love that part of it. I really wonder how authentic that was, or if it's just maybe I'm reading into it. But
I think that's one of Bill Paxton's greatest roles, honestly.
Yeah.
I agree.
The best
oh, wait, that was Bill. Holy crap!
the best acting is when Tom Cruise tries to get away while they're doing push-ups and he rolls underneath the truck and Bill Paxton's like, oh,
What the hell were you thinking?
Yep.
I love that. I laughed so hard in theaters. People were looking at me funny. That is like the best scene. And Bill Paxton.
The tri-fail. I mean, you mentioned it already, but the tri-fail cycle of he's getting away. He knows he's going to get away, and then bam, gets run over by a truck or gets hit by something. That montage of his deaths was absolutely phenomenal to me.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The other thing too is going back to the unreliable narrator thing. Remember that when he meets those guys and they're coming to look for him and like, oh, we got in so much trouble because of you, and he knows every single punch that guy's gonna throw.
yeah.
Now, how many times had he been to the point where he just gave up and he was coming back drunk and ran into those guys to know how that was going to roll? So it's really, they do keep it ambiguous. He's completely unreliable. That scene where he's in the bar, he's like, "Oh, I've been over there more times than you know."
Did you guys notice the difference in exo armor between the different soldiers?
Yeah.
I thought that was really interesting because
I
they
got
never really
free, man.
Well, like one guy had like that kind of hockey mask thing on, but then there was another dude that almost looked like he was like the guy that carried the saw or the M240 or something. It was big and bulky, and compared to the rest of the suits, it was like much bigger and much substantial. And I liked that they did that with the armor, so that not everybody was the same. Like there was different positions.
What I didn't like about the jackets was there wasn't enough actual armor on the armor. It was all exoskeleton.
It wasn't armor. It was just an exoskeleton.
Yeah, why didn't they put more armor on it?
I can tell you why they didn't for the movie, because they already weighed 10 pounds.
He weighed 86
Yeah.
pounds. Yeah.
I found the armor, like that part of it too, I had to sort of just let go. Like the fact that he's supposedly a new recruit and they're just throwing him into, like, he has very little training.
Again,
Like when they
right.
land on the beach, like I get the point is that we want to show them being inept. Like I get that. But from a actual perspective, like they have no military bearing what, like that whole operation is just random people hitting a beach running around.
They're like
Well, you
mercenaries.
got to understand one thing is that the reason they think anybody can put this armor on and be an expert is because of Rita Vertasky at Verdun. The only reason she looked like an expert is because she had the blood in her, and so she was practicing every day
Right.
for a year.
But even so,
And,
they had
and they
no.
think anybody can put on the armor and be an expert now.
Yeah. I mean, I would have loved it if they'd said something like Raytheon on the armor. Like when they were showing the armor, it was like, oh yeah, that's like Lockheed Martin or whatever. Like, but they didn't do that. I get why they didn't. But
I did love it that when he goes to try to figure out the safety, everything's in Japanese.
Yeah.
Because
You know,
it's got
it really
multiple
kind of shows
languages.
like it really kind of shows like there was this sort of like this mad dash slop together, everything is last minute because they've already been losing the war.
Yeah.
They've already lost millions of people. They've already
They've
lost
lost all of
probably
Europe.
lost all of their best soldiers.
They've
And
lost
these
all
are
of Europe.
the inactive ready reserves they're throwing at these guys,
Yeah.
the only other thing that I'll say about the war side of it, like they're treating everybody as just like regular army infantry. They're not specialized units. They're not special forces. They're not like mechanized, anything like that. They play them off as just grunts, foot soldiers. But they didn't have, like, if you're making this massive offensive, even with the suits, I would think that they would have air support, that they would have tanks or something else that they are dropping off with these guys. Because even regular army, if they're going someplace, they're going to have, Bradleys, they're going to have APCs,
Yeah,
they're going
you're
to have.
ignoring one thing though, Josh. The budget for the movie.
It wasn't in the script. It wasn't in the script.
No,
You see,
it's
I
like
these
they
down on this paper, and then we do them.
they've
Yeah,
already
yeah.
they already got all these special effects they got to pay for. You want to put tanks and aircraft?
I need to
too?
get
I
like
mean,
a
we
stack of
probably
papers,
could-
and I'm like, because.
right.
We probably could massage a reason for it, like maybe the regular army's already been destroyed and
Yeah, that's probably true.
Sure.
whatever.
Yeah.
But it's
I mean,
kind of like
probably
goes back to like
how long had it been since the start of the war when this happened? Was it a year or I
a
can't
couple
remember.
years. It was a couple
I
Couple
years.
can't
years.
remember.
Yeah.
I know
But
they
it's-
mentioned it, but I can't remember.
But that they've pretty much threw everything they had into Europe and all
Yeah,
of
this
it.
was. I mean, they said a couple times that this was it. If they lose here, the war's over. That they're losing.
I got the impression this jacket stuff was pretty much all they had left, and they were just throwing everything they had into it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Infinity War, where like the scene where the aliens break through the shield in
Wakanda.
Wakanda.
Forever.
A couple of Bradleys, and a Sea Ram would have solved that
Yeah.
problem quick.
Yep.
Well, that's where they didn't, like, we had a new technology. We kind of get to experience it through Tom Cruise as he's trying to like navigate it and make it work. But I think that's the trope that we're kind of taking away from this as a story. Like technology, you got to have a whole lot of other things to make technology effective. And through the magic of, alien blood, he eventually makes it effective. But without magic alien blood, it's not going to solve any problems, really.
Yeah,
So
they're going to get their butts kicked.
Right.
If everybody who was in that armor, it looked like they barely knew how to operate it. They hadn't. I mean, like one guy, Ford, said that he had 20 combat ops, but everybody else was mocking that, which means they probably have one or two maximum.
And they probably were drops where there was no combat, but they thought there was going to be combat kind of thing.
Yeah.
They did
Kind of-
also level up Tom Cruise's armament as the movie went on. There was at one point he I can't remember where it was. I think it was before he went to the dam and found out that wasn't the right place, but he stands up with her and they're coming out of the dropship and he's got like rocket launchers on his shoulder and one of the turret
I think he
mounted-
already had those. He just didn't know how to use them before.
Oh, that could be.
could be.
That's definitely possible.
And there's that one scene where the guy's like, "Are you drunk?" He's like, "I need 2 extra mags, and where's your helmet? It gets in the way, all that stuff.
The
you know.
distraction.
Well, and he says he needs an extra battery because the time before he had to get out of the armor because the battery died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, my favorite part of the movie is after he gives up on trying to get Rita to the dam, and he just does it himself, and he's like, he just becomes this kind of cynical, you know, hard bitten
Yeah.
veteran soldier who's seen 100 battles, you know, and they're all the
I
same
think
battle.
I think we mentioned it already, but the consistent kind of incompetence of everyone. The other thing that kind of pulled me out of it was the scientist and Rita. Well, they're talking about don't tell anybody or they'll put you in a psych ward. Um, those kind of things, like I get it, like bureaucracy and all of that, but you would think that if there's any type of a hint of something weird going on, that they would want to explore that, and that there would be whole departments like just.
Aliens
Well, they
exist.
did try to dissect her once, so apparently that was their idea of exploring it.
Well, no, I get it, but like this, in the same way that Tom convinced Rita and convinced everyone else by like saying all of these things that he learned about this, you would think that you'd be able to go to somebody like the general and say all these things, and they'll be like, something's up here, instead
Yeah,
of just being an incompetent asshole.
I think that the idea behind that was that that you had to go through that general to do any of this, and he was just a huge, you know,
Idiot.
idiot.
I mean,
What
he
was
wouldn't
the
believe
general who planned Operation Market Garden because he wanted to one up the Americans from Operation Overlord? He was mad that America had.
Was it Monty?
He was mad that America succeeded at D-Day, and he wanted the British to plan an operation that would rival D-Day, and so he slapped together a market garden, and didn't give it enough equipment, didn't give it enough troops, didn't give it enough
He went a
planning.
bridge too far.
Yeah, and it was all because he wanted to one up the Americans and show them that the British military was better. And that was a huge disaster for the Allies.
I mean, and you got to look at the guy's main concern before this battle when he brought Tom Cruise in at the beginning was how are they going to look at me if it goes badly?
Optics.
So this guy is not competent. He's not moral. He's kind of a dick, and he's an idiot. And I think that was, and even after they told him everything and told him about the future and proved it to him, he still sent people to try to arrest them. So
Right.
I think the main problem was that everything had to go through him, and he was a huge choke point.
Which in a story, okay, we got to have a bad guy. But I think one of the cool things about World War II in general is like the explosion of technology that came out of World War II. And everybody was in a like, holy crap, we can use aircraft for this, or we can, grenade, all the things that came out, like radar is a thing. Like, so that, I think that's a really good point, Josh, that probably if there was more time and more space and, this was a series or something like that, I could see like a whole like division of alien technology.
If they had more than 2 days,
right,
they could have done it. But I mean, even though they do it over and over, they're still in the same 2 days with the same people there all the time. It's not like they can wait for an American general to come and talk to him.
Also, if you think of Operation Overlord, the first people hitting the beach were just infantry. The vehicles didn't come till later. And
but Rangers first, right?
They attempted to use air power. They just missed most of their targets.
Because Rangers lead the way.
But wasn't the Navy pounding the crap out of the coast?
They didn't
do any good.
Aircraft they had. I mean, there was
a lot. It actually hurt the situation, if I recall correctly, because once the Rangers got on top of the cliffs to disable the guns, nothing looked right. Because
true.
It didn't look like the maps anymore because they'd been pounded somewhere.
Well, it gave them places to hide when they overran the artillery positions, and then
that's one of the things that I put in my books frequently because of what happened in World War II and World War I is all this artillery prep and bombardment and everything, and everybody always thinks it's going to make it easy, and it never really does anything.
Unless you're the Soviets and you just do it for days and days and days.
But I mean, we could there are a lot of things that don't check out in the way that they present the military and and whatnot. And
I
maybe it's
think
not strictly military sci-fi. Maybe it does venture more into action adventure or
I
space
think I think
opera.
you brought up a good point, Chef, is that most of the military is already dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is also a
Well, and that goes
well
to the
movie.
medium too, right? Like you're saying, it might not be military. It's like it's not technically a military movie, right? It was made for a wide audience, and so they're going to take liberties there, and there's going to be and they do it in every movie where there's going to be
You know,
differences.
those big guns they have on the back of the jacks, they could just mount a couple of those on a Bradley.
Right.
Yeah, but if the aliens, I mean, from what it looks like, the aliens can really blow up anything with those. I
Yeah,
don't know where those beams are coming from. The beams that shoot down, the blast that shoot down
Yeah.
they never do show where they come from. So I don't know how that works.
In one scene, it kind of looked like what happened with the movie Starship Troopers, where the big bugs are launching
yeah.
the energy things. Because there's a scene where they're flying in, and you can see the dunes, and the creatures are appearing, the things are coming off, and then they're going back into the sand. And so it's like they were spitting or crapping their
But if
energy plasma balls.
if those things can shoot down aircraft, they could probably blow up tanks and Bradleys. That's just the same. Maybe the
True.
whole plan is we throw as many jackets as we can in there, and they can't blow them all up, can they? Yeah.
hold my alien beer.
Yeah.
I did like that they were able to use, like you're saying, kind of the unreliable. We don't know how many times he jumped, but there was obviously a point where it didn't take him very long to get his point across because they were progressing through the how do you know all this to let's just do it and take what he's saying
I think
as
Rita
true.
Vertasky being there helped with that.
For sure. And you when you include the scientist in that and going through and finding all the different things about like how the mimics worked and all of that, like I really like how they built those scenes to really give you more information
Mhm.
in a faster way
And I love the
and allow.
montage of her shooting him over and over and over.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
And
he's
Mac is
crawling
described
around
it
and he's like,
as
"No,
Mac
I'm cool. I'm cool. Your leg's broken." "No, no, it's not. It's not. I'm fine."
someone described the movie to me in a way that I thought was really great. It was Emily Blunt teaching Tom Cruise how to be Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
And
One
She was
question
such a
I
great
always had
actress in that movie.
one question I always had was why did they call them mimics? What were they mimicking?
that's what it was in the book.
Yeah, I just wondered
Yeah.
what were they
The book,
mimicking?
well, by the way, the book is wildly different than the movie. The
Yeah.
book, she doesn't train him at all. He watches her and he learns by watching her. But because it's a Japanese book, you can't have a woman training a guy how to do anything. And and she dies at the end of the book, spoiler alert. Um and the book is wildly different.
And the book is read from right to left, so
Did it end the same way?
No, no.
How did it end in the book? Do you remember?
Uh they didn't win in the end of the book.
Oh,
It
interesting.
was just another day. Like they had like a small victory, but it wasn't like the war was over. Which is very Japanese. It's very, Asian
Right.
story is very wildly different than American story or than Western storytelling.
in Japanese story, the war's not going to end until you drop the A bombs.
Yeah.
I would love to know
Now
in this
let's talk about crossovers. I want to see Godzilla fight the mimics now.
right.
Okay.
I would love to see I would love the backstory on how the aliens got there. Right? Like, and is the was it the what's the boss alien, not the alpha,
The Omega.
Oh, the Omega.
the Omega? Like, is that the only one they have? Is because it doesn't seem like to me
Well,
that
it got there by that meteor that hit Germany.
Right. I thought
well,
that
but
was
what
the
I
thing.
It was in the beginning of the movie.
right, but what I mean is like is that the whole race?
Yeah.
Are there
Yeah.
more Omegas?
Well, I think did they
Because it
mention that
didn't.
they were like going through the galaxy on these asteroids and they hit a planet and then they take it over. And
Yeah.
Right, but what I'm getting at is that if the Omega is not the only one, if there's more Omegas in the race of mimics, it doesn't seem like the power that he has that connects him to the alphas or whatever else that resets the time. It doesn't seem that it's limited by distance because it doesn't matter where the guy is. So if
Right.
that's the case, and there's more alphas or more Omegas, would they also be detecting this? And could they just start the thing over if the Omega died?
well, I
Or,
mean,
or is it just the alphas that are directly connected to that Omega?
I guess we'll have to
I
find
would
out when
think it's
tomorrow 2 comes out.
I would
Those
think
those are
that
interesting questions.
they said that the mimics on the planet were like one being, and the impression I got was this one asteroid, one Omega, hits a planet, takes it over. What you said about the loop thing is best kind of not thought about too much, because if it was
Yeah.
if it was long range, like if it was universal, then time would be looping back constantly every time an Omega lost. So I think you have to kind of assume that it's only a local phenomena,
Could be.
and because if it's not, then
We're really just living in a simulation because the Omega controls the simulation.
yeah, that's probably it.
I don't know
Yeah.
if you guys ever watched the Stargate episode that was similar to this.
You mean where he's like hitting the
Yeah.
golf
In the
balls
middle
through
of
the
my
Stargate?
backswing.
Yeah.
It was one of the best episodes they did. It was season 5, I think, and when it was all said and done, they found out that there were 18 gates that were all locked together in this loop, and they had been there for 6 months. And nobody had been able to get a hold of them or approach the planets or anything. And so I kind of wonder if it's not a situation like that where it's local to space time. Though, of course, if you think about it, it couldn't be, because you couldn't just reset the day on one planet, because you'd be moving the planet physically back in time.
And how does relativity work with it?
Yeah.
Right.
So I guess they
I,
probably.
I also wonder too, like what picks the time what is the segment of time that they flip back to? Because he always flips back to where he wakes up on the bags, but at the end of the movie, he flips back to where he's on the helicopter landing. So like it is
That's the blood of the
The
Omega.
only thing those two
right,
scenes
but
have
what
in
I'm saying
common-
is like what determines that flip back time?
Well,
Like
I think
why is
that
it the 2
they said
days
something
for
about
him?
how you go to the day before the Alpha died. So him waking up was always the day before the Alpha died, so they could plant because that was the idea that you could use what happened to the Omega would use what happened to the Alpha to change its plans. I guess I don't know. I guess I mean, I know they changed the ending, and originally it wasn't going to be that, but I guess with what we know now, and just BSing about it, is that the Omega puts you back 3 days, or 2 days before the Alpha,
So
before it
like
dies.
there's a progression of hierarchy. Like if you
Yeah,
kill the next being up, you go back one more
yeah.
day or something.
Well, I
Yeah.
do know that the only two things the scenes have in common is they're both him waking up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
It'd be really funny though. It'd be funny if, like, in Edge of Tomorrow 2, he's like an old man. He's on his deathbed, and uh he
He
dies.
dies and
He
then goes
wakes up
all
in
the
a
way back.
helicopter.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
just
I'd be so mad. I'd be so mad about
You
that.
guys see, there was what was that? What's that cartoon TV show, Rick and Morty?
Uh-huh.
There's a Rick and Morty episode like that where Morty
He's playing the
lives
game.
his whole life, and
Yeah.
he's in a plane crash on the Alps and meets the girl of his dreams, and he survives, and they get married, and they're gonna have kids, and then someone accidentally hits the remote and sends him back to the day that he met her before all of it happened, and he breaks the remote and he can't reset himself anymore, and yeah,
He comes out of the game and he's like, ah! Yeah.
Hmm.
The other thing I would love to see, I know they're not going to make a movie, but I would love to see like what happened with Rita and how she killed the Alpha and how like all of that happened.
oh man, that'd be awesome.
Because honestly, she was like a badass, and I know
She
that
should
there
have
are a
played
lot
Black
of
Widow.
movies. Yeah, I mean there are a lot of movies out there that want to portray women as really like battle hardened and competent. Like I'm thinking the one with uh what's the UFC fighter who was in Mandalorian?
Gina Carano.
Yes,
Bono.
Haywire. That movie
yeah.
was pretty decent, but there's also a lot of other movies like Anna where she's an assassin, but she's obviously there's no way she could punch a dude in the face,
110
and
pounds. Yeah.
yeah. But this
Wait,
movie,
who?
like, it's not. It's that she is super confident, but that she's also like she's got the armor and the helicopter blade and all of that, and it never felt kind of just let's just make her a woman. Like she was a great character in and of herself, and she happened to be badass too.
You know that Emily Blunt was supposed to be Black Widow in the Marvel movies, but she was contracted to play Mary Poppins, I think.
Yeah,
Was it Mary Poppins or some movie, and she couldn't get out of it. So I mean, Scarlett Johansson was a good Black Widow, but I just like Emily Blunt would have been a great Black Widow. Also
I
would
know
have been a
John
great Captain
Krasinski
Marvel.
was up for Captain America too. It would have been funny
Yeah,
if both of them had gotten into it.
Wow.
yeah, that would have been funny. Although I just can't see John Krasinski as Captain America though.
No.
I don't know. I couldn't see that guy. Yeah, I couldn't see him as a special forces guy until I watched 13 Hours, and then I was like, oh, I'm
Yeah,
sold. I'm sold on
true.
that all the way.
I think he's pretty good as
Uh,
Jack Ryan, even though
I
the
was
show's
just gonna say I still haven't watched Jack Ryan. Is he works on that?
You know, the first season's okay. The second season ran away with the
Second
cart,
season
and
sucked.
then the third season kind of brought it back a little bit,
Yeah.
but it still wasn't as good as the first season. I always just like with a lot of the, and this way off edge of tomorrow with a lot of the Jack Ryan movies, they go outside the scope of what Jack Ryan is, and they make him a James Bond. And Jack Ryan was never a James Bond, and I get kind of tired of that.
Well, I mean, it if you Patriot Games, he kind of turned into like this action hero dude who's lecturing Prince Charles on how to be a man. I mean, that was it
In the
didn't take,
movie,
but
yes, but in the book, he did. In the book, it wasn't like that. And
no, no, in
in
the
the
book it
books,
was like that. In the book, Patriot Games, he it was that's why I hated Patriot Games the book because the guy from Hunt for Red October, it seems like a totally different person in Patriot
because it
Games.
is.
well, because Patriot Games happens before Red October.
I know it seems like a totally different person, and he's lecturing Prince Charles in the book on manhood and how to like. It's like a ridiculous. I hated that book, but anyway, uh, James, watch Jack Ryan. Skip season 2. You don't need to see it. It's horrible, and
All about how Venezuela is really a great place and communism is good.
yeah, in season 2, Venezuela is like a kind of a idyllic place until right wingers are trying to take it over. It's like one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen.
Yeah, I've watched
Just
The Office like
come on.
4 times, so the idea of Jim like running around being a special
Yeah,
just has never worked for me. Like I could see the guy from Chuck, who I've always thought was like a stand-in for John Krasinski. What's his? I'm looking at his name.
Zachary Levi.
Yeah, Zachary Levi. Like, okay, he could do that, but not.
But he's really good in 13 Hours though.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
13 Hours is a great movie. If you haven't
Yeah,
seen
the next one we should review should be that
13
because
Hours.
that.
I haven't seen it. I should watch it.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
Oh my
definitely
God,
watch.
it's so the interesting. And I'll say this real quickly, and then we can wrap up Edge of Tomorrow. But with 13 Hours, I read the book, and there were so many things that happened that actually happened in real life that they did in the movie that they. So this isn't a spoiler, but they're getting on the plane, and the airline stewardesses put down towels because they're like just completely messed up. They're bloody, they're dirty and all that. And they were worried that the owner of the plane was going to get pissed because they were going to get blood everywhere. So they were putting towels down. And in the movie, they did that. They got these towels and they start laying it down. It's a very small, like you wouldn't know it if you hadn't known it. But there were so many things in that movie that they pulled from the actual incident that happened. It's so good. So good.
I get really worked up about that because there's a special place in hell for commanding officers who leave their men to die when they could.
Agreed.
Yeah, we should put that on the list because I need to watch it too.
Yeah,
Just-
definitely.
Oh, you haven't seen it either, James?
I haven't watched 13 Hours yet, no.
Talk.
You got to see
I
it.
just-
Yeah.
Really.
Just want to punch him in the face for Benghazi.
I didn't want to watch it because I mean I knew the real story and it sounded really depressing. But I watched it and I'm like, oh, it's one of my favorite
Really?
movies.
It's like
now.
movies about 9/11. Like I'm just not.
Yeah.
So
Not only did they tell the actual story of what happened, but they did really good character work for the people that mattered, and then they paid homage to Like they did it the right way. They didn't like kind of blow it out of proportion. They didn't make anybody do anything crazy. They didn't downplay anybody's role, and they didn't make, except for the CIA guy, they didn't make like anybody look idiotic or make dumb decisions. And they just really really tried to hold true to the actual story, even though there were, you know, artistic license and everything, but it's a really really good flick.
Cool. Yeah, we'll add
Which
it on the list.
also, Edge of Tomorrow was really, really good.
I know. So one last thing I wanted to touch on with Edge of Tomorrow is rule of cool in this movie.
Oh,
Like,
yes.
I think
There's a lot of
you
rules
got-
in this movie.
when you look at like one of the things that we talk about that the advice you get as a writer, or if nobody's told you this, I'm going to tell you now. Typically genre crossovers are not successful. So if you look at an idea of, oh, I'm going to do military sci-fi and it's got time travel and it's also got, you know, but this movie manages to pull it off in a way, but also just has a lot of rule of cool stuff, like the helicopter blade. The whole time I kept thinking, like, why really is she using the helicopter blade?
Right.
When I want to get as far away from these stupid things as possible and blow them up, you know, with whatever projectile.
Helicopter blade doesn't run out of ammo, James.
That's well, okay,
That's true.
and
It
that's
looks
a good
true.
point. That's a good point. But it just looks cool as hell to have her with
Oh,
that
yeah.
helicopter blade, you know, which is in everything in the movie. And so, like, I think coming up with a reason, like, it doesn't run out of ammo against a, you know, relentless enemy is good. And, you know, so things like that. Like, I thought the the jackets were good. I liked, I don't know. I wish the movie had a bit more of it, but that was a lot of stuff that I liked. I just thought there was cool stuff in this.
One question I wanted to ask you guys: would this movie have worked if anybody else other than Tom Cruise had been the star?
Yeah, I think so. I think that there would be I think there's a lot of characters that can play that role. And honestly, I think if they could have got like um almost a no-name guy to do it.
I
It's
think it
still,
would have
I
worked with the
think,
no name.
The writing was solid.
yeah.
It certainly helped that Tom Cruise was playing against type the first
I
quarter
feel
of the
like
movie.
he's done
True.
this type of character before. Like he was almost like his lawyer character in the beginning, like a smooth talking, you know,
Yeah.
smirking guy. And so it's
But,
kind
like,
of fun to watch him get
When
torn.
you go into
I
an
think
action
that-
movie
I think
with
the
Tom
thing is-
Cruise, you expect the brave hero. You expect Ethan Hunt, and what we got was, you know, Curious the Cowardly Dog or whatever.
But I think that the thing that Tom Cruise brought to it was that even when the guy was a coward and, you know, an idiot, you always kind of liked Tom Cruise. So it kept you liking this character until he got competent.
I think Chris
I think-
Pine could have done it. I think
Maybe Chris Pine could have done it.
I think anybody who had the kind of range to be the sort of vulnerable moron that was likable
Mhm.
pulled it off.
See, I could see Chris Pine being the vulnerable moron, but I couldn't see Chris Pine as the hardened killer at the end.
Gotta see his bank robber movie, man. Just bank
You mean
robber is-
Hell or High Water.
Taylor Sheridan?
Yeah,
Oh, Hell or High Water was a great movie.
yeah.
I mean,
Do you guys think? Sorry, go ahead, James.
I'm just gonna say he is a good actor. I think he gets
Yeah.
typecast, but he is still a good actor.
Do you guys think he would have made it in Edge of Tomorrow if Oblivion hadn't done as well as it did?
What?
Because
Oblivion? Yeah,
Oblivion
Oblivion was-
the
well,
movie he was.
Oblivion. Okay, sorry. I thought you said
Yeah.
Bolivian.
Yeah, he had that string of really good sci-fi movies,
Yeah, I liked Oblivion
Yeah.
a lot too.
and along with two really successful Mission Impossible movies. So it seems like
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
for me, the thing working against Edge of Tomorrow and Tom Cruise is the fact this movie came out in 2012, 2011, and that's like height of Iraq, global war and terror. Like people are not super interested in watching, I think, military, movies.
I don't think it got the marketing budget it should have got, and a lot of critics were just like, "Oh, it's just Groundhog Day," and I think that probably turned a lot of people off.
I think the one thing that really makes Tom Cruise work in this movie, where it might not work for like another actor, like the one actor that comes to mind is Sam Elliott. He always plays the same exact character every time, and with Tom Cruise, usually it is an action movie, but the characters are usually different enough where you don't look at it and like halfway through the movie, you're not watching Tom Cruise, you're watching Gage in Edge of Tomorrow. Like you're not stuck on this guy's gonna do this.
You gotta
And
watch
I think
Tropic
that worked.
like when he plays
Oh yeah.
Tropic Thunder, like this guy can
Do
do
you
it.
know that when Ben Stiller called him for the role, he said, "Yeah, I want to do it, but I want fat hands and I want to dance." And Ben Stiller was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, trust me, I want fat hands and I'm gonna dance." And when he did it on set for the first day, everybody lost it. It was funny.
Yep.
But
Movies that could not be made today.
I think
yeah.
it could be. Like
Honestly, though, if you go ahead.
I think that's an earnest, like the thing about Tropic Thunder is like it's not a movie that like I've seen this debate before. Like it's a movie that takes itself seriously in what it does, and it's not like I don't know. I feel like it could be made. Like they just need balls to do it, but it's still the type of movie that can be
I
successful.
think it could have been made up till about 4 years ago, and maybe it could be made in a year or two. But I think there's a period where it could not have been
Maybe, yeah.
made.
But I mean, even people love Robert Downey Jr.'s. I don't know.
Oh yeah,
That's the thing.
What do you mean, you people?
Because he's making fun of people doing blackface. Like that's the thing. It's not him trying to do blackface. He's making fun of that kind of actor doing blackface. So I don't know.
So really interestingly, I was just looking at Tom Cruise's IMDb, and it is rumored that they're doing another Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah, they've been planning it for a while.
Yeah, they can't ever get the right script. They can't get together on time. Yeah. They're all getting older. I mean, Tom Cruise is like 60 now.
Yeah, Emily Blunt. At one point, it was Emily Blunt's schedule. Then it was Christopher McQuarrie's schedule. And they want to get Paul Greengrass to be the director again. And these are all people who are all working all the time. So it's yeah. And the movie didn't make that much money. So.
And when are we going to get Tom Cruise movie where he's actually filming it in space? That was supposed to happen too.
That's the next one. That's the next Mission Impossible movie.
It wasn't supposed to be a Mission Impossible movie. It was.
He's not in space. He's underwater.
No, there's a movie. There's a movie he's going to film actually in space.
There is on his list. There's one that says it's an untitled Tom Cruise SpaceX project, and it's in pre-production now.
Oh, okay.
He's going to actually go to space in the SpaceX capsule and film up there. He's going to go outside on EVA, and push away, and then drop.
If there was an actor who was going to make history with his death, it would be Tom Cruise.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's how he wants to go out.
All right. Well, I think our agreed opinion is Edge of Tomorrow is a great movie, and you absolutely should watch it.
It's great acting in that movie too. Better acting than has any right to be, really.
Yeah.
I guess that's a good takeaway for me too. Like I didn't expect this movie. I didn't expect to like this movie, and I love this movie. I think there's just so much cool stuff in this movie. So, all right. Well, thanks for hanging out with us. Check us out in the Discord, and
don't forget to hit the like button.
Yeah, hit the like button. Tell somebody about the podcast.
Jam that like and subscribe button.
Let us know what you think.
Not break your computer hitting the like button on the screen, touch screen.
And like always, if there's other episodes or other movies you'd like us to take a look at, let us know. We've seen a lot, but yeah, let us know in the Discord.
We're gonna do Serenity at some point.
Yes, 100%.
We'll branch outside our military science fiction safe place and watch Serenity, a space opera movie.
You see me fighting a war, you'll know the difference.
All right, we'll see y'all later. Salute.
Load up troopers on a hit and jump gate. Military science fiction podcast. Discussion, interviews, reviews, and rants. Military science fiction podcast. Load up troop, it's time to hit the jump gate. Military science fiction podcast.